to ask Helen to just take you through the process, particularly for our new members, but for all, in relation to the procedural motion. Now we have a mover and a seconder on the substantive item. Helen?
Thank you. Yes, just if I could refer members to Standing Order 20.2, which refers to procedural motions, and the one that is on the table and before you relates to E of that section, that the item of business being discussed should lie on the table and not be further discussed at this meeting. As a procedural motion, once it is moved and seconded, it must move straight to vote without debate. The only point I just wish to point out is that the additional wording after the word meeting, that is technically outside of what is listed within 20.2, and to allow would require the discretion of the Mayor to allow. And
Are you happy to allow, Mayor?
Absolutely.
Right, so you need to go to the vote.
So we're now.
We need a seconder.
We need a seconder from.
Can we just the wording's not quite right here.
Okay.
Because we want to come back ASAP, like in January. I thought no one was.
Yes, Helen.
I was just going to say there may be some doability considerations on timing, because we are dealing with external parties and their availability. So I would suggest a date may be constraining.
Okay. That's right.
So what sort of date are you suggesting?
It's not now.
Not now. Okay. So
It's a good faith thing, right? We want to get it as quickly.
right. So Tyrone has moved it and Melanie has seconded it. There is no
debate.
no debate, no
Move
nothing.
To vote.
So we just now go for the vote. Do we vote all those in favour of this procedural motion, which is
Division. Division.
division? Okay.
Division. Sam. To be clear on what members are voting on.
Yep.
Yeah.
So for the procedural motion that's on the table at the moment, the Mayor, Deputy Mayor Cotter,
Just delayed the directors.
Councillor Peters, Councillor Harrison Hunt, Councillor Coker,
Yes.
Councillor Fields,
Yes.
Councillor Donovan, Councillor Henstock, Councillor Moore,
Abstain.
abstain, Councillor Goff,
No.
Councillor Johansson, Councillor Keown,
No.
Councillor MacDonald,
No.
Councillor Barber,
No.
Councillor McLennan,
Yes.
Councillor Scandrett,
No.
and Councillor Templeton. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 against, and 1 abstention.
The procedure
Lost.
falls.
Thank you. So now we carry on with the next bit. Are there any more
Questions.
questions? Well, no one's debating now, aren't we?
Yeah, we're moving into debate.
And we're moving into debate. Are there any more amendments that have been put up that I don't know about?
Yes.
Just go through the bits that are
underlined
so everyone's
Yeah.
clear what.
You move up and show us all, please.
So we are debating. Far away.
We're
Anybody?
just going to go through the
So just want
amended.
So any bits that are underlined are the additional bits that have been moved and seconded.
It's actually hard to hear, I've got to say, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Can you? Would you like me? I'll read them out to you, Tim, so you can hear. So 2B has been added, noting that this will include a spectrum of options, including the rebalancing of the portfolio. If you can move down to 3A, it is, I'll read all of that, shall I? Maintain the CCHL structure to continue to provide an independent, non-political buffer between the council and its commercial companies. Note that currently CCHL's core role and purpose is to deliver commercially based outcomes for its shareholder. I feel like a nodding dog. And then we have 3 new additions. Item number 4, provide a more detailed briefing on Treasury matters, including debt profiling, hedging ratios, and cost of borrowing considerations in respect of both CCC and CCHL. Number 5, obtains additional independent legal advice and advice from the Office of the Auditor General on councillors' directors' ability to participate in future discussions and ability to vote or not vote without triggering a conflict of interest. Number 6, extends the appointment of Andrew Turner as Director of CCHL until such time as councillors are formally appointed to the CCHL Board. And number 7, will request for council companies to consider holding their AGMs in public. Oh, I've been told there's one more. And then a slight addition to 3F1,
Yep.
which is 6 monthly briefings where the CEOs and the board chairs of the CCTOs present to council.
Thanks. Thank you very much, Dawn.
You're welcome.
So, are we
Into debate.
debate?
Can I move an amendment to enable the rebalancing option to be put separately to the hybrid and 2B? So, for example,
Could people use their microphones, please?
Could we move that rebalancing option to 2C? Have it separate to the hybrid model?
I'll move in a second. Are you happy with that?
Does it matter?
It actually gives more weight keeping it there. So I wouldn't be overly keen on. I mean, I know it puts you in an awkward position, but I thought that was what we've added in. I would have thought would have allayed the potential fears. Yeah.
It probably needs a foreshadowed motion for
Yeah.
in fact you almost need to do it first. So just for a rebalancing of the portfolio only approach.
I'm going to ask it to be put separately anyway, so you could foreshadow.
Well, I mean, I've seconded B, so I don't need to do a foreshadowed motion. I'm just saying for others, if they wanted something that was, that was different.
Okay.
Do we have a foreshadowed motion from anybody else?
Probably. So do you want to explain what that is? Someone explain what a foreshadowed motion is for.
And can we get a printout of all the recommendations that have been done, or can we get it sent around so we can have the exact wording?
It's all on screen, obviously. But
Sorry, Sarah, just for clarity, in this case, you're thinking that basically the foreshadowed would be a copy and paste of everything here with the exclusion of the hybrid, but leaving in the rebalance? Just for 2B. Oh, yeah. So if a member...
Oh, Sam's sending that to me.
So if a member...
Sam's sending
right.
Right, so where are we at? Sam's sending that, which is very good, thank you. You should have that very soon.
Bear with us a moment.
No,
while
talk on my
Sam
amendment.
uses the technology to send it all through to you.
So we're in
What's foreshadowed?
Just so I'm clear on that, you've combined both of them in there. So the status quo would be that you would have both, and you'd have all information that you can compare with each other. So nothing's necessarily left out. It just means that there's more information.
It was the way to get everyone on board without excluding anything.
So nothing's left behind with that one.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
And
very
clearly,
comfortable.
the Local Government Act does require us to look at all options and
Anyway.
consider them, and then make any recommendations. To be clear, so that there won't be an opportunity to only look at one thing. You need to consider all your options as part of the future report if you decide to proceed.
So just thinking about what we've got, everything in front of us here, which everyone seems to be happy with, so we'll now start debate on it all.
Assuming I don't have a foreshadowed motion, would you like to just describe what a foreshadowed motion is, Helen, for new members?
It's the standing order's way of saying just in case the first thing fails. So it's the backup, if you like.
Right, so we're debating away. Fire away, Pauline.
Thank you. If The report is critical of CCHL, although it does note that CCHL has performed reasonably well, but is being too passive. It also recommends actions for this council to take to assist CCHL to perform and grow better. And there is good advice around the letter of expectation, better scrutiny, better engagement, better reporting, that we as a council will most definitely implement as soon as possible. But to sanction the go button on such a rushed process is unpalatable and unwise. The last thing we want to do is create instability at CCHL and thus reduce the value of shares and portfolios. Basically, I'm saying that we need more information on both the council and the CCHL debt profiling, hedging ratios and cost of borrowings, and we need to work on our value strategy first, including what we determine the best balance between CCHL delivering dividends, growth and non-commercial outcomes. That's important. I believe we need to do that work first before we decide to go down any avenue. Yes, currently we have high debt levels, and so does CCHL due to its $440 million capital release. But this is cyclic, and CCHL's assets are blue chip and strong enough to weather this storm. Introducing co-investors, in my view, means selling a portion of shares, therefore diluting our portfolio ownership ratio. And just another consideration, I mean, I hate to say this, but it's looking more and more likely that the Three Waters is going to go through, and we could be looking at receiving $1.2 to $1.6 billion in 18 months' time. Just saying. It comes back to timing of this. Why the rush? And I do feel this is a particularly challenging item to be presented to new councillors who've been undergoing a heap of induction and briefings. Very, very challenging for them to come up to speed with this one at this time. So make no mistake, to support this approach today is taking us down the path of selling assets, which has served us so well. There are some that have dollar signs flashing in their eyes, thinking that CCHL will suddenly be overflowing with cash as a result. But be very careful. It could simply be fool's gold. I support the suggestion that we take up the offer to workshop with Mr. Stock and Mr. Irvine, but it's absolutely imperative that we establish our value strategy and we get the Treasury advice before we make a decision today. So I will not support 2B, and I would ask you, Mr. Chair, to please put 2D and 2H separately as well.
D.
Thank you. D and H.
3H, was it?
Oh, three or two?
2B, 3D.
Oh, sorry, 2B, 3D, 3H.
3H.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, who wants to have? Thank you, Sam.
Yeah, thank you. And I mean, I'm hoping people do engage on this debate because I think it's a really important issue for our city, and I appreciate what Pauline's said as well. I think what we need to be really clear on is we're not jumping to an outcome right now. What we are literally doing is having a piece of work done that will inform a draft long-term plan. And I think it's worth just reminding people who are tuning in that actually the draft long-term plan requires extensive public consultation. So there will be options put to the public after some considerations by council, at which point we can say yay or nay. If the feedback comes back and says, let's leave it absolutely as it is, then who are we to stand in the way of that? It's no different to debates around stadiums or things. If the people speak, then we will listen. I think with this one, ultimately we would be neglectful in our duties if we didn't have this work done. The reality is that as a collective unit, CCHL could do better. That's not to say that companies within that are doing badly, but I think we need to be really looking at how we spread that risk right across the country commercially. And I know, Pauline mentioned about fool's gold. I mean, we probably do need to look more about actually how we have a strategic, intelligent conversation across our asset base. And that might mean actually divesting and putting things across the country. So I think this gives us a real opportunity not to jump the gun and do anything stupid, but to have that genuine public consultation after the commercial people do some work to say, how do we grow the wealth of our city? I don't think for a minute there's an appetite around this council for wholesale asset change, and I include myself in that. Asset sale, I should say, and I include myself in that. But I think what we need to do is have a strategic conversation that says, are we getting the best bang for our buck for our ratepayers now? and in 30 years. What I would ideally like to see is actually the premiums we realise if we do go to that point, paying down some debt, but actually using the capital that we have in these companies now to put them into different companies, and you watch the value grow over time. So I guess that's one example, and I've probably jumped a bit far down the line, but it just should present that actually we have a range of options as a council, and again, I think we'd be neglectful in our duties if we didn't consider it today. So I do want to acknowledge Northingtons for the work they've done, Leah and the team. I think it's factual, objective advice. Ultimately, it's our democratic decision to decide whether we do that today, but I think we'd be neglecting the public if we didn't. So I really hope that people trust the collective council and go on this journey for the next 6 months, acknowledging that actually we will be consulting with the community before any decisions are made.
Thank you, Sam. Jake?
If this passes today, I think we need to be really clear about the conversation we're having with the public. You know, a sell down in the equity of our companies is an asset sale. It'll be called leveraging our capital base, but it's straight up and down asset sales, not a wholesale asset sale of the entire holdings company, but of a sizable chunk. And I think that's fine, and we can have that conversation, but we do need to make that extremely explicit. Also as part of this conversation, we also really need to be clear with the public. Do they support a rebalancing of the portfolio, i.e. keeping that capital within our holdings company, or do they support some of those proceeds coming back to council for what is, in my view, a short-term sugar hit? And I think, you know, some of my colleagues will point to debt reduction, and I think the question really has to be asked, if we're planning to defer some of our debt repayments as we're discussing with our annual plan, how can we really claim to be prudent to be focused on debt reduction when it comes to asking CCHL to do it for us? Really, that's just treating our holdings company like a credit card. So I, for one, don't support these asset sales. I don't support the short-term sugar hit of drawing down this capital and pulling it back to council. And I don't really think it's the Christmas present the people of Christchurch will be wanting or expecting.
Right, Aaron.
Yeah, it was interesting this morning to hear former Mayor Gary Moore, who was one of the architects of squirreling away the family silver, saying that he wasn't opposed to going down this road and looking into all of our options. Owning assets as a city is a fantastic thing. We have some great assets, but assets change and the value of them changes along the way. I mean, 100 years ago, it would have been awesome to own the telegraph service, but shares in it now wouldn't be worth much at all, except maybe museum entry. So things will change, and going forward, as the world faces things like energy crisis, and this morning, now that we know that jet fuel's compromised because of the changes just at Marsden Point, only within a year of shutting it down, it suddenly starts to become really obvious that what our city invests in needs to be the future of not just our city, but around the rest of the country and delving into the rest of the world. With issues like climate change and political instability globally, opportunities abound, and we need to be part of all of those opportunities, whichever they are. And hopefully this report, when it comes back and the work that's done from it, will lead us to more silver, or the silver turning into gold in our little nest of nest eggs to carry us forward. Because I don't think just leaving it the same old and saying everything's an asset sale. And I was like Jake, I was opposed to it when I first heard it. I thought, oh, it's just an asset sale and we're going to own nothing at the end of it and have still more debt. But I don't think that's what this is. This is about looking at all of our options, and the best way that silver that was put away is protected as well as grown going forward. And that is the key part to this for me. And we may vote it down in the long-term plan. We have that option. But to not look at our options is being asleep at the wheel. And wake up, people. The world's changing and our opportunities are right in front of us.
Melanie?
The aim of the strategic review was to see whether CCHL is still relevant, and I think the result of the report has been a resounding yes. And I just wanted to remind people of the CCHL mission statement, which is supporting the future growth of Christchurch by investing in key infrastructure assets that are commercially viable and environmentally and socially sustainable. I wholeheartedly agree with every part of the statement. These values align with the Local Government Act, the act that all councillors swear to abide by when elected each term. It states, the Act states that the principal objective of a CCO is to achieve the objectives of its shareholders, both commercial and non-commercial. Now, councillors are voted to represent the people of Christchurch and the objectives of the people of Christchurch and act in their best interests. So councillors that sit on CCHL are there to take the values of council and the best interests of the people of Christchurch to the CCHL board. Yes, we can give guidance in our letter of expectation, but what better way to effect change by half the members of the board being from council, balanced by half the members being independent directors. So yes, I agree with the status quo, where we continue with 4 councillor directors and will vote against having the proposed 2. Now, the Northington's report states CCC should objectively revisit its core priorities objectives before resetting the scope and remit of CCHL to deliver on those objectives. I completely agree. Building value is key, with a long-term strategy focused over 30, 50, 100 years. Long-term thinking for long-term gain. This clearly indicates that council needs to work out its value strategy, I believe, before doing any further work. So I think today is a bit premature and jumping the gun even. Now, I wouldn't be adverse to looking at other investments this council could look at to generate income for the people of the city and reduce our reliance on rates. Absolutely. But it's at that point, and that point alone, that I believe we should start looking at how any great investment we might look at could be funded, which may be through some sort of rebalancing. And I would like to back up our current mayor. Back in August he said, "You can take it from me that under my watch as mayor, I will not be selling any of these assets. They will be safe from the chopping block." So I will not be voting to look at a hybrid model. Recycling assets is selling assets. Assets generate income that is ongoing and reliable for decades, if not longer. Income that could be used to fund generational issues, climate change initiatives, equity in all forms. A one-off cash hit cannot help future generations. Once the money is spent, it's gone. We all know that. The people of the city know that. They can see where this is headed, and the people don't like it. This is not the people's choice.
Okay, so, Doreen?
Well, look, we need to think really carefully before heading in the direction of a hybrid approach without considering the cost benefit of the existing model. Look, a hybrid approach may well be very good, but it could become all too tempting for people to renege on their pre-election promises regarding the family silver for what might ultimately prove to be a quick bite with a questionable benefit to ratepayers. We would have to liquidate quite a bit of our portfolio to impact to have any sort of impact on rate rises. And then once we've done that, we'd have precisely 0 levers to pull when the next shock happens. If you're lucky enough to own your own investment property, it's like this is equivalent to, selling it off to pay off your mortgage and then being surprised when the market moves away on you and you haven't got a house anymore before you discovered that you didn't pay off your mortgage at all. And then you realise you don't have any knives and forks anymore because you've flogged them. So I'm all for looking at new opportunities, don't get me wrong, I'm absolutely open to that discussion, rebalancing, whatever you want to call it. But let's not expose ourselves to a flogging, which is what a hybrid model does. So I can't support 2B on those grounds.
Victoria?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm of the view that the report adequately addresses the functional requirements of the review and that there is a strong case to objectively consider our core objectives and develop a strategy. And it's really timely 30 years on to ask, why do we own those assets? Can I be really clear that debt and rate affordability is at top of mind for me? This is not about asset sales today. This is about doing more homework before we make a decision, and it's prudent for us to do that. I agree with some of the comments that the individual performance of the subsidiaries is acceptable, but I do think that CCHL's performance overall as a portfolio manager could and should be better. I would like CCHL to take a more active management role, mandate, and be more commercially focused, look at increasing our flexibility and the diversification. And on that particular note, I reinforce what Councillor Kewen was saying, that our portfolio is traditional. Technology is advancing and we have to move with that, and we have a real opportunity here to do that. I'd like to thank Pauline, thank you for your comments and your concerns about new councillors. As a new councillor, I, for one, do not feel rushed. I want to thank you for your report. I think it is factual. It is presented in a constructive and comprehensive manner, and for my part, it is easily digestible for me, but I acknowledge that that's the knowledge, the background and the experience and the skills that I bring to the table, that I'm capable of digesting this huge amount of complex information. So thank you for that. So I don't feel rushed, and I think that the hybrid approach recommended in the report is sensible, and I note that a hybrid is indeed a spectrum, and it includes one or other or both, and that's what they're being asked to look at. I'm minded to support the recommendations on the screen, and I'd like to thank Councillor McDonald for his comment about turning the silver into gold, and we have an opportunity to do that here. Thank you.
Mark, and then Sarah, then Tyler.
Thank you. As a new councillor, I appreciate Pauline's noting that it's a lot for us to take in, but I feel like we've been well briefed on this. The report is very comprehensive and puts it pretty plainly to us, and I think it's pretty prudent for us as a council, 30 years after Christchurch City Holdings being established, to be doing this strategic review, and it's timely. So I also think it's prudent for us to today be looking at asking for more options and doing the homework that we need to be doing. It's not a case of just selling assets. This is about getting some more information so that we can enter into a long-term plan process, listen to the people, and let the people tell us what they would like. There's nothing more certain than some of the companies in the portfolio are a little underperforming, and if we need to re-gear and look at some more environmentally sustainable options going forward and better options for our ratepayers, then I think as a council we need to really be awake at the wheel rather than asleep at the wheel, do the homework that's required, and get this report and the options before us and before the people, so that down the road a decision can be made for the best interest of Christchurch. So I'm certainly supportive of this, and certainly supportive of doing the homework to get to a situation where we can make an informed decision.
Thank you, Mark. Tyler.
Tēnā rā tātou katoa. Firstly, I'd like to thank all of my colleagues for all of your insightful speeches and debate. And secondly, I'd like to offer my gratitude to staff in Northingtons on this report. It's very comprehensive and it does have a lot of information on it. Most importantly, though, I'd actually like to thank my constituents in their highly valued insight on where they want to see their assets go. And throughout the year, after talking to hundreds, if not thousands of people, I was unwavering in my values that are enforced by my forefathers, and that, my friends, is to always think of our children. In every single decision we make at this table, we have to always think about our children and those that come after us. And if we don't represent our children, the question is, who will? So I'd like to remind the public and my colleagues that no matter what the wording we have in front of us portrays, in layman's terms, it is in fact testing the waters on asset sales and to pay back the debt that our predecessors actually placed upon us. Let me be quite clear that we, the people, do not own these assets. We are only borrowing them from our children. Every decision we make here today will indirectly or directly affect our next generation. And in regards to the above, let me ask, what hole will we dig ourselves out of if we are obliged by the hybrid recommendation in 18 months' time and we face another financial downturn in 5 years' time? Which parachute will we grab if we have already used it? While I agree that having a more active approach to our portfolio is beneficial, I'm very wary and nervous on the potential outcomes that lie ahead from what is seen as testing options around asset sales. Those options, might I add, could be seen as spinning bias towards said outcome and could put us in a rabbit hole we can't quite get out of. I reiterate that we must stay agile and vigilant, even when we consider any asset sales with the intention on paying down debt and rates while unknowingly affecting our next generation. So in today's current climate, while we're looking at options, we stand on the edge of a precipice of a recession and political and social stresses. We have a healthy return on dividends so far and continue to make some way forward. If asset sales does get put on the table, I question the volatility of the market and getting a good bang for our buck at this point in time. To me, this is inadequate. While I understand that these recommendations are non-committal at this point, I will not be in support of some pieces of these recommendations on the basis of myself not being comfortable at all, just yet, on making decisions for future work. Therefore, my friends around the table, I want to note apprehension, caution, and hesitancy, and this isn't coming from me, this is coming from your kids and your grandkids. Kia ora.
Thank you. Sarah.
We are no longer a 20th century city or focused on the rebuild in the past. We are a 21st century city with our eyes firmly on the future, and we need to make sure that not only council, but the assets we own are fit for our changing future, as well as best placed to deliver for the residents that ultimately own them. Fundamentally, this is not about how CCHL and the subs have performed in the past. It's about determining what we need CCHL to be for our future. One thing I disagree with in the Northington's report is the broader ESG focus. My firm belief is that the council ownership has driven outcomes by way of living wage, climate change targets, those kind of things, much faster and further than the group would have done under other ownership. And there is nothing in this report that limits what we can do in this space with any new investments in the future. There are two ways to use CCHL to create value and reduce rates impacts over time. The first is to have high-performing assets that give great dividends to offset increases, and rebalancing gives us this. The second is to invest at council in assets that reduce costs to start with, such as in climate resilience. And we cannot do this part without exploring the hybrid model. I am not open to selling ratepayer assets for a quick sugar hit to reduce short-term rates increase, while losing dividend streams and community outcomes for the future. But I am open to using the value of our current asset base in a different way, and I'm keen to look at what those options might be. And I know that there's some distrust in this process, but let's remember that we asked for this review a year ago, before the current financial crunch, and not in reaction to it. We choose the CCHL board and set the terms for the future work. A range of options will come to council for consideration, and we will be consulting with our residents across the city on any resulting options as part of the long-term plan. The final decision on any option for future direction of CCHL will not be until June 2024, and any future direction given by council will be for a direction of travel over a decade, not immediate. This is not a quick sugar hit to mitigate our current annual plan issues. There is a disquiet from the community, a fear that this is the thin end of the wedge, and I get it. But while there is a sense of deja vu, and council has looked at potential sales several times in the past decade, simply looking at those did not end up in sales, as the process was gone through and a decision made at the end to go with a different option. So today, I believe it is good governance to take a look at further options, to talk to our community about those options, and to put our city in the best place it can be as we face a more uncertain future. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. James?
Thank you. Look, it is time to look at what a CCHL 2.0 looks like. I think the model served us really well. You know, I've spent close to 9 years as a director of CCHL, so I have a pretty solid understanding of it. There are elements that work very well, and there's elements that can be improved on, and you'd expect that after 30 years. But having the information to better tailor it with the future and the future needs of the city in mind just makes complete sense. Now, I think the process that these recommendations allow us to embark on means that we can get a clear steer on some key questions from our community, and that includes, what is the appetite for risk? Where does CCHL or a future iteration of CCHL sit in terms of delivering social outcomes versus purely commercial outcomes? Personally, I think there needs to be elements of both, and they're not mutually exclusive, but it is a sliding scale, and I think clearly understanding what those trade-offs are is an essential conversation to have. You know, the truth is, if you stand still and do nothing, you're going to rapidly become irrelevant. And that's not fair on the ultimate shareholders of CCHL, which is the residents of our city. So these recommendations allow us to move forward and have those conversations on both rebalancing and a hybrid option. And from there, we'll get an informed position to make some decisions hand in glove with our community. It might be to grow the pie. It might be to spread risk. It might be to do nothing. But reaching that position needs to be an informed one. And these recommendations that you're about to vote on right now will ensure that that's the case.
Thank you. Kelly? Then you, Tim.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you, fellow councillors, for your wisdom. It's always interesting to listen to all the perspectives. I support these recommendations. I don't want to be overreacting to the suggestion that change is something that we should look at. I think we need to be brave, like our ancestors were when they came here. I think we need to always be facing up to difficult challenges as they come along, and obviously this is a time for us to do a review and to take our time and think this through. I think we need to be brave. I think we need to do the review, face up to what comes, and then make the decision as we see it. So, yeah, I'm supportive.
Tim?
Yeah, thank you. I think every councillor, including the mayor around the table, made pre-election promises with regards to keeping rates reasonable. Our ratepayers are looking at inflation, as we are, rising interest rates, and the pressure is on. We have to look at every lever available to us, not just for our generation, but those ahead of us, as Tyler said, to see how we can do this. I think it would be wrong not to look at every lever, which I don't believe we have. But this piece of work is needed to gain the real factual-based information for the long-term plan to allow our ratepayers to let us know what they want us to do. This is essential. It will also raise our awareness of our assets. It will raise CCHL's awareness of what we require of them. And I think we've really dropped the ball there. But it will also raise the awareness to our CCTOs what is required of them. And I think this is going to be a piece of work that has far more important things than just discussing selling assets, which I don't believe this is. I'm absolutely against selling anything to something like a super fund or a venture capital or a so-called partner that would just want to sit on an asset just to get a bit of blue chip. It's not acceptable. We've got to look at the future. We owe that to our ratepayers who are under more and more stress as we move forward. So I'm going to support this. It is not a ticket to sell. It is a ticket to raise awareness and look at options and talk with real facts with our ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Anyone else? Yanni?
Thank you. First off, I just think it's ludicrous that we've got a late supplementary item on our agenda that's longer, got more pages than the actual normal agenda that we put out. It doesn't seem right that we are rushing this through, particularly because of the huge public interest. And I think to spend hours on this today just shows that this is being rushed because there's so many questions and there's deputations and there's a whole bunch of wordsmithing that's happening. So I think this is poor process. In fact, it's ironic that there's a lot of criticism of CCHL in this review, but one of the most fundamental things about good governance is having the time to understand the decisions that you're making and to process the information. And I don't believe that we've had an adequate time to do that. I think the report from Northingtons is overly optimistic and lacks the appropriate caution. And just to highlight some of the examples where it talks about what's happened in Australia and says the ideal candidate models for LPC, CAAL and Orion are leasing or mixed ownership. And it compares it to the Australian Airport Privatisation Program, and Sydney Airport is one, and also the majority of Australian ports. You only need to go online and look at Sydney Airport, that was outrageously, in my view, acquired by Macquarie Bank, and then absolutely asset stripped while fees went up, and private bankers made a fortune out of complicated deals that left the community in a way worse position than what they would have been if it had remained in public ownership. And, you know, some would say it's Australia's worst airport, and it just highlights that there are huge risks associated with some of the models that are proposed. And if you look at Brisbane, you know, the port workers getting a text on the Thursday night to say don't come to work tomorrow on Friday morning. Is that really the sort of operation that we want in a city like Christchurch, the People's Republic of Christchurch, that has prided itself on social and environmental values? You can't trust these multinational investors to do the right thing by our people, and that's why I'm very concerned about what's being proposed. But the other thing, more fundamentally, is I don't understand what the problem is that we're actually trying to fix. We've got an airport that's already taken, and as much as you may disagree or agree with the position, they're already looking at establishing a new airport in Terrace. If that doesn't show you that there's sufficient width within the CCHL structure to look at new opportunity, I don't know what ever would. So I'm completely against 2B. I'm not in favour of receiving this report. It, in my view, completely underestimates the risk of the models that are being put forward and has suggestions for ideal candidates that don't stand up, I think, to scrutiny around the ESGs.
Okay, thank you. I was wondering when you were going to say something.
Thank you. I do feel we have a responsibility to look at all options. These aren't our assets, these are the public's assets. We owe it to them to have all options on the table. And in terms of making a hasty decision, if we're directing in a way today to only look at one type of option, that also seems to me like a hasty decision to be making today. If indeed the hybrid model is the wrong model, then we can look forward to rejecting that with the will of the people by listening to what we are told. And ultimately, I back the ability for this council to make an informed decision and to make the right decision when the facts are in front of us.
Thank you, Celeste.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge the people that have done a huge amount of work on this and also fellow councillors. I think it's been quite an interesting debate. It's definitely a complex issue, and it's easy to use platitudes and kind of a turn of phrase to describe something that I think requires a lot of analysis and understanding. I think that it's easy to kind of put things in very broad terms in terms of asset sales and other things. And I am concerned about that as leading to something that we maybe not intending to do, but there could be an unintended consequence of the decision we're making today. I would have liked to have seen perhaps a clearer sort of focus on the fact that perhaps we should be reconsidering whether the hybrid model is appropriate at this time. And I'd also like to have heard more from the community. I would have liked to have more opportunity for public engagement on this particular issue. So while the scope itself, I think, has a good purpose, in that we're looking at whether CCHL is actually fit for purpose, I would feel more comfortable if we took more time to have a more in-depth look at the options. So for that reason, I won't be supporting 2B.
And now it's my turn. The amount of work that has been done here by Northingtons and staff and everyone is absolutely massive. Now, this is the first time in 30 years that we've done a real deep dive down into what we're doing. And it's got to happen, because my father used to say to me, if you stand still, you're going backwards. And I feel CCHL have been standing still. So this is the shot in the arm that it needs to get it ahead. To say that we haven't had enough briefings is not quite right. I reckon we've had more briefings on this, and good constructive briefings, thank you very much, for months. And so we've had all the information. And I think that because we're asking lots of questions, it's good to clarify our minds. And they're all good questions that are coming forward, and I relish that. So I think, as I say, first time in 30 years, we've got to look at this, get it come forward to us, and it will be a year, 18 months down the track, I think. Did you say, Sarah? Okay, around about that time. So we've got a lot of time to consider it, and we can talk to who Gary said if we want to. We can do all that work. We're not selling them, putting the for sale sign up tomorrow. So I think we should just consider options and repurpose for a better return in the future, because someone told me the other day, if the Alpine fault, that's right, the civil defence guy, if the Alpine fault goes off and Christchurch gets flattened, all our money is in one basket. We need to sort of spread stuff around over different parts of the country and get our income coming from different streams. So I'm supporting this, as you can possibly tell. So I will now, how do we do it?
Let's do a division.
One by one.
Yeah, and we'll just go one by one.
Yeah, line by line. Do you want to do it? Do you want to do it as division for each one, or do you just want to see, depending on what they are?
I don't know.
Depends how contentious.
Sorry, I was just suggesting a division on the ones that Pauline suggested, those three. The rest of it
The
can
end?
be done easily.
So I'd like them all put.
Oh, okay.
What did you say, Yanni? Sorry?
Just sorry, I'd like them all put individually.
Yes.
Them individually, and I'll do divisions on the ones
That are potentially close. Yeah.
Okay, so we're starting with number 1. You can all see that number 1. You all good?
So you're receiving the report.
Receive
No,
the
it
report?
says receive.
Okay.
All those in favour?
All those in favour? All those against? Carried.
That was Yanni. No.
Number 2. All those in favour of number 2?
2A.
Oh, 2A, sorry. It was 2B and 3D, wasn't it?
Yeah, so 2A.
Yeah, 2A. All those in favour of 2A? Against? Thank you, carried. Now, this is one we
2B.
might have to do divisional.
Division.
Righto. Well,
Division for 2B.
Yeah. The line underneath B needs to go with B.
Say that again, Pauline,
Well,
please, because that wasn't clear.
If B is lost, then it's not two pieces of work. Why don't you just change it to this work is prepared in time?
Well, hang on, they're out.
They can be changed after, can they?
I can let
Oh,
it
that bit
apply
down the bottom,
to
you mean? Oh,
A
okay, yeah.
or B or
Oh, right, sorry. Yep, makes sense.
okay, so we're now doing 2B by division.
so for 2B, Councillor Keown,
Yes.
Councillor McLennan,
No.
Councillor MacDonald,
Yes.
Councillor Henstock,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Scandrett,
Yes.
Councillor Harrison Hunt,
No.
Councillor Coker,
No.
Councillor Fields,
No.
Councillor Peters,
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
Councillor Templeton, Councillor Barber,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Cotter,
No.
Councillor Johansson, Councillor Donovan, and Councillor Goff.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 against.
So that's carried. Thank you. So now we move down to number 3. So you got to thank you, Sam. All those in favour of number 3?
Aye.
All those against?
That's Yanni.
Yanni again. Carried. Thank you. Now we're down to 3B. That's one.
Say that again, Councillor Johansson. So you're 4-3A, is that correct?
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. So now, just so we're all clear, it's 3B that we're looking at. All those in favour?
Aye.
All those against? Carried. Thank you. Let's carry on the way we.
See?
Number 3C. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Yanni against.
Thank you. Carried. 3D. All those in favour?
Is this going to be?
Say that again, sorry.
Oh, that's yes, you're right. It is a division one. Sorry.
Division.
I thought we were on a roll here for a minute.
So for 3D,
Do you want to just highlight what 3D is so that the members can see it clearly? Thank you.
Councillor Templeton, Councillor McLennan,
No.
Councillor MacDonald,
Yes.
Councillor Johansson. Councillor Moore.
The order. How they're structured.
Yes.
Councillor Donovan.
No.
Councillor Coker.
No.
Councillor Peters.
Yes.
Mayor.
Yes.
Councillor Scandrett.
Yes.
Councillor Barber.
Yes.
Councillor Keown. No. Councillor Goff.
Yes.
Councillor Henstock.
Yes.
Councillor Fields.
No.
Councillor Harrison Hunt.
You can take abstain as well.
Abstain.
Deputy Mayor Cotter. No. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 against and 1 abstention.
So it's carried. Thank you. Now the next one that you're going to do division on is at 3H. Just
Well, we're on. Yes, probably. Let's see.
I think so. So okay, so we're into 3E now. All those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Those against?
Yeah,
Yanni.
for no.
Carried. Thank you very much. 3F. All those in favour for 3F?
Let's engage.
So I'll start again. All those in favour? Uh-huh. All those against? Thank you. Carried. Up to G. Thank you, Sam. So all those in favour of 3G? Aye. Those against? Thank you. And here is 3H. This is the one which is Sam's going to do for us.
So for 3H, Councillor Moore.
Yes, sorry, I have to read it. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Councillor Johansson. No. Deputy Mayor Cotter. No. Councillor McLennan.
No.
Councillor Barber.
Yes.
Councillor Goff.
Yes.
Councillor McDonald.
Yeah. Yes.
Councillor Keown.
What do I need to vote on?
Councillor Fields.
Yes. Oh shit. Sorry. I mean, no.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's right. That's what I thought.
He's just read his note.
Brain fade.
Councillor Henstock.
Yes.
Councillor Scandrett.
Yes.
Councillor Harrison Hunt.
No.
Councillor Coker.
I think Tyrone was voting for a drink, but no.
Councillor Templeton. Councillor Donovan. Councillor Peters.
Yes.
And the Mayor.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 against.
Thank you. That is carried. So we're up to number 4. Could you just roll that up a little bit for us,
Can you
please?
roll up the screen? Yeah. Can we do? Can we take 4 to 7 together? Are members happy with that?
Yeah. Thank you. All those in favour of 4 to 7? 4, 5, 6 and 7? Aye. Those against? Great. Carried. Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Tea break.
Lunch.
Lunch.
Lunch. Is it lunch?
No, tea break.
Tea break.
Tea
Right.
break.
Okay, what time are we back?
Maximum of 15, 1 o'clock.
15 minutes.
Members, can I please ask that you actually do come back by 1, because we have a fair number of items to get through before we go to the future for local government. And I know you need some lunch as well.
Thank